video, I'm going to be showing you guys 10 absolutely crazy painting and otherwise art hacks. Some of these hacks are so crazy unbelievable that when I tried them out for the first time, I was in absolute awe, so make sure you watch all the way to the end to find out what they are. And if you guys are ready to be creative, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get right into it. I want to start off with some fun hacks. First of all, if you have an ink pad, just like the one I have right here, you can take your thumb, make a thumbprint on paper, and that can turn into all sorts of crazy thumbprint art. Here are just some examples of what I've done. Next up, you can create your own scratch art, which is that really fun and satisfying thing that you can scratch with and make art with. All you need is some paper and some really good crayons. First, you take some colorful crayons and rub them on a paper really hard and aggressively. Next, you take a black crayon and once again color with it really aggressively on top of the other colors. And then lastly, you can take a toothpick. Since I don't have a toothpick, I'm just going to use a screwdriver and pretty much scratch up the stuff to make really colorful and beautiful art. This is really satisfying, which is why a lot of people really love it. Not to mention, the results can be so beautiful. You can also use wax paper to help make your own stencils and to help with tracing. Unfortunately, I don't have wax paper to show you, but it works really well because it's see-through. But here are some examples of like stencils that you can make with the help of wax paper. You can use Mod Podge to help set clay in place, just like I have done with these clay molds. Mod Podge is great because it's see-through and it really does help to harden the clay up. And this is actually really effective because I made these using modeling clay, which if you guys know, you would know it does not harden at all, no matter what you do. So Mod Podge is a great thing to use to like harden this kind of stuff. Also, if you have a straw, some alcohol inks, and a little bit of ceramic pieces, you can first put some alcohol inks on the dishes and then blow through a straw to create these really abstract beautiful designs on these little trinket dishes that I have. They are really beautiful and super useful too, as I also use them to keep jewelry in it, not to mention very pleasing to look at. And the alcohol inks, the best part about them is that they blow really easily. Literally all you need is a straw. Now we're going to move on to painting, which is my personal favorite, especially when it comes to hacks. First of all, you can use a toothbrush or simply just a pretty big brush, although toothbrushes work the best to create splatter paint. All you do is just dip the brush in paint and just simply use your finger to flick the bristles so that it creates splatter. It is a bit hard to see on my paper because I'm not using a toothbrush and the flecks are like really small. But if you do this with a bunch of colors, it can end up looking really pretty. In fact, here's some other artworks that I've done using splatter paints. I actually used a stencil for this one. And the thing that splatter paint actually is the most useful for is creating stars. If you're ever doing like a night sky like painting or something, the splatter painting is really good for creating stars. Next up is this super helpful technique that I just call wet on wet. Water has incredible properties, so if you take some and wet a paper beforehand, you may have to use quite a lot of water. But then if you take some paint right after that, this does work best with watercolor, and then just put it on there. The paint will spread only in the area where the water was applied because the water kind of acts as a barrier to prevent the paint from going any further. And it's a bit hard to see because this does work best with water paint and I'm using acrylic, but usually the paint does spread out a bit. And it's really helpful for when you don't want the paint to like go past a certain point. These next two painting hacks are lesser known and some of my favorites because they're honestly magical. Not a lot of people know this, but salt actually repels paint. So if you paint a little bit, and then sprinkle a little bit of salt on top of what you painted, the salt will actually repel the paint and create a really interesting texture. This does take a lot of paint and a little bit of time because you have to wait for the paint to dry, but down in this painting, in the bottom of it, you can actually see how the kind of texture that it creates and like how it looks. This next hack may be a bit more obvious, but you can take some oil pastel and just color with it a bit. Next, you can take some paint directly over it, and once again, the oil pastel will repel the paint because water and oil do not mix. And once again, just like the previous hack, this does take, you do have to wait for it to dry to show the results, but I actually have done this previously, and this black area is what it looks like when you first color with oil pastel and then paint right over it. Once again, these two hacks may work better with watercolor than with acrylic paint, which is what I'm using right now. This very last hack is super useful because it is a great way to get rid of small crayons, just like the ones I have here. Basically, what I would do is I would turn them into a powder using this small toy grater. It did work pretty well. And then I would sprinkle the mixture, sprinkle the little crayon pieces on top of a piece of clothing or like a tote bag, and then melt them down using an iron, and it would create a really pretty like artwork on the clothing. For example, this is a bra that I did. I did go a little heavy on the green, but honestly, I'm really proud of how it turned out. It did smell a little bad for the first few days, but it was really pretty, and I'm really proud that I did give it a try. Anyway, that is gonna be it for this video. I truly do hope you guys try some of these hacks out for yourself, and all I can say is if you do, be ready to be amazed, because these hacks are literally crazy.